Hello, happy Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? I think it's Wednesday. I had Monday off, so I'm a bit confused what day it is. It's Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, halfway through the week. So we're going as per normal, going live on Facebook. Be replaying on Instagram and YouTube later. I'll upload those later. So if anyone's watching, anyone's listening, drop us a comment, drop us an emoji of some kind. Get those algorithms fired up. Let's get all this stuff out to people. It really helps. So, but yeah, thank you for joining me. I hope everyone's safe and well from wherever you are in the world at the moment, wherever that may be. Anyone joining from YouTube, welcome to the channel. Talking everything mindfulness, meditation, and spiritual well-being. As well as some mental health stuff, tips and techniques and principles. So welcome. So what am I going to talk about today? First of all, I want to say thank you for everyone's support. It goes without saying, but I really, really appreciate everyone's support. Watching the videos, commenting, liking, feedback, people reaching out, asking for help. It's been phenomenal. Like I talked about yesterday, about it's okay not to be okay, you know, people reaching out and actually asking for help is massive. It's so courageous. It's so brave to ask for help, and really important. And like I said, it's been really important in my journey. When I've reached out and asked for help, I've had such growth in personal, you know, and growth, and been able to actually deal with some of my issues, and it's been really important. But what I want to talk about today, I want to talk about a bit of philosophy, I suppose, with a bit of science chucked in. There's a word they use in Africa. Ubuntu is Ubuntu, and it means oneness. It means humanity. It means like collective. You know, it means a universal kind of connectivity between us. And I want to kind of explain a little bit about that, because when I first started a lot of this kind of like spiritual stuff, and people started talking about us all being connected and all being one, and you know, what you do affects other people. I couldn't really understand it, like, because I spent my whole life thinking of myself as an individual. You know, I'm me and you're you, and we're two separate individuals. And I could kind of understand how what I did would affect you on a very physical level. You know, if I bump into you, I have an impact on you in a physical manner. But when they started talking about from an energetic manner, and how I could affect someone like halfway around the world, like I didn't understand it, and it kind of became very mystical and kind of far out there, and it was a bit like, oh, I don't know, like a lot of kind of spiritual concepts kind of wrapped in this mysticism, and quite difficult to understand. And me personally, I'm quite a scientific kind of guy, you know. Which is funny, because a lot of the spiritual stuff, I came into it thinking that you were either scientific or you were spiritual, and there was no kind of, you know, there was no tie up between them, but there really is, and that's what I want to kind of talk about today and explain it all, and hopefully help people understand a bit better about what's kind of meant about that, and how we actually really can impact other people on that kind of energetic level. So, like I said, society wants to believe us that we're very, or kind of, it's just how our understanding up until now has been that we're kind of very separate individuals. But there's been a lot of studies recently, you know, in the recent years around how we can impact other people, and there's been some fascinating studies actually. But let's break it down. If I break it right down, I'm going to get into a little bit of quantum physics. I'm not going to go really deep in that, because I'm not going to pretend that I understand it all completely, but this is my understanding. You know, if it doesn't ring true with you, or if you've got a different understanding, that's cool. But this is how I understand it. And so there's a theory called quantum entanglement, which is, and I'm just going to take this right down to the base level. So with quantum entanglement, it means what they did is they split a particle. So like I think it was a proton. They split a proton in half to make two identical protons. And they sent a massive tube, and they sent them off in different directions. And then they I'll say interfered, that sounds really wrong, but they did things to one of the particles, and they measured what happened to the other particle that was like miles away in the other direction. And what they found is that where they'd split that particle in two, whatever they did to one particle actually happened to the other particle. So on some level, these two particles were entangled. They were linked. You know, what happened to one happened to the other. Now I want to explain why that's important, because that can still sound really, really far out, as in like, oh, okay, I'll get that, but how does that impact me? How does that, you know, how could that mean I can impact someone else? Well, the universe started as one particle. It started in one central location, and it's kind of been expanding since. You know, they know that they've kind of been able to measure this, that over I think it was the first like 500 million years or whatever, it was still travelling too far and nothing was really formed, and as it went out, stars were created and all the different elements were created, and again, I won't get too into that, but they're created in these stars, and then off that, you know, they're exploded, and then collections of those cause planets, and ours is created by all these elements, and the exact combination of them has created an habitable planet for us to live on. So if we look at that, that means that everything in our physical reality came from kind of like one single place. So it makes sense that they're all linked in the same way as we look at that quantum entanglement. And so if they're all linked, even if we break it down to where we came from. So I came from like, I'm not going to give you a birds and the bees, but I came from an egg and a sperm cell that, you know, bonded together, and then those cells were split and created a person, a baby, and then, you know, they carried on splitting, and, you know, they creating more and more and more, and until I became who I am today. Well, then, if we brought that back to the beginning of man, like, everything came from that same thing. So all of our cells and all of the atoms in us and all of the particles in us all really came from the same source. They all came, you know, they all started in the same kind of tiny little location. So it makes sense that what we do can impact others. So that's my understanding of that side of things. And then when we get to the energetic level, there's been loads of studies as well around how thoughts can affect other people. How, let's call them prayers. How prayers can affect other people. You know, there was studies into. They took some two groups of kind of ill people, and one group of people had prayers said for them, one didn't, and there were significant differences in the recovery of the two groups, and they were selected all at random. So those are kind of like thoughts. You know, those thoughts, that energy. You know, we can measure thoughts as brainwaves now, and they can affect people. And they can affect people, you know, people who are outside of the person that's praying, and probably a long way away. You know, they measure our energetic field around us to around 6 feet, but they only measured it to 6 feet because that's as far as the instruments could measure. If anyone is interested in any of this stuff, watch anything by Gregg Braddock or Joe Dispenza. You know, there's some fascinating, you know, and this is all peer-reviewed science. This is all stuff that's been reviewed and by other scientists, and is, you know, it's fact. You know, it's all backed up. Well, it's fact as we know it. You know, it's the truth as we know it now. You know, there may be something down the line that supersedes that because we get more knowledge. But at the moment, this is how it is, and so these fascinating things of how energy. You know, people being healed from thought alone. So it really makes you think about, well, what energy am I putting out? And if our energies are created in our thoughts and our feelings. What am I doing? What am I putting out into the world? What difference am I making? Well, how is what I'm doing, how is that impacting those around me or those further away? And the planet as a whole. I mean, there's studies, if you Google the studies of how thoughts and even speech affects the structure of water. They did a study where And they even showed this water, you know, put a glass of water in front of a picture, and depending on the picture, it changed the structure of the water. Those who were more positive and more happy and peaceful, the water structure was very kind of what's it called? It was very balanced, and kind of like it looked really, you know, pretty. Whereas you put them out in something of, you know, something very negative, you know, some negative stuff towards it, it was very kind of broken down and disjointed. So that's the impact that they can have, that you can have just through thought on water. What can you have, you know, and we're 70% water. It really makes you think about what kind of energy we're putting out. And that's why a lot of this mindfulness and the other stuff I talk about, you know, trying to get out of the mind, trying to get away from the negative thoughts and how we deal with them, and why that's so important. Not just to you, you know, it makes it important in your individual life. It makes a change to you as an individual, but also to the collective as a whole. And like they've noticed recently that the Schumann Resonance, for example, which is the resonance, the energetic resonance that the actual Earth gives off. I think it's like 7.8 hertz, I believe. Don't quote me on that. You can look it up, but don't quote me on that. It's actually been coming up. And it kind of goes up and down on a daily basis, but on a level it's increasing. As more mindfulness carrying, you know, more people have been much more mindful and being more aware of the energy they're putting out through their speech, through their beliefs, through their thoughts, through everything they do. So I really want you to have to think about that, what the implications that has on you, and how you can impact the world, and what you can do, not just for you. Don't get me wrong, it's absolutely phenomenal changes in me that I've noticed through practicing this stuff, but for the world as a whole, let's try and make this a better place. So yeah, thank you for tuning in, listening. Thanks for your comments. I see Emily dropping comments, probably on our lunch break. And I hope that kind of given you a bit of food for thought, and a little bit of science behind it as well, because get a bit of understanding. If anyone wants any more information on this stuff, if anyone's interested in this kind of these philosophies and things, drop me a message. We have a chat. I can point you in a direction of some really good books to read and some understanding, and look up Ubuntu. It's quite fascinating. Actually have a philosophy around it. So yeah, thanks for joining. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. Hope everyone's safe wherever they are. Like I said, if you're watching on YouTube or Instagram on the replay, drop us a comment, drop us a like. Or if you're just watching on Facebook, either now or in the replay again, drop us a comment, drop us a like. Tell me what you think. Anything else you want to chuck in? You know, I'm always keen to remain teachable and always keen to learn new stuff. So yeah, thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a lovely day.